Hello and welcome to a multiplayer update for Legacy of the Void. In this video, we will be discussing additions and changes coming to the Protoss race in the thrilling conclusion to the Starcraft 2 trilogy. Let's get to it. New to the Protoss arsenal is the Disruptor, a micro-intensive splash damage option that can warp in at the robotics facility. This unit can go into an invulnerable energy form and after a short duration, deal burst damage to all units around it. Micro is key to defense against the Disruptor, otherwise you will take massive damage. Then again, some units just deal with it. But if you can effectively micro your units to counter, you'll be able to take the Disruptor out. Now to the big guns, the Immortal. We're removing the Hardened Shield passive and adding an active ability that absorbs damage for a short duration. Changing up the Immortal's defense in this manner will open up new options for Micro on both sides of play. In a perfect engagement, Immortals now have the potential to stand against units that typically deal well with them. With these changes, Immortals will still be effective against units like the Siege Tank without being such a hard counter. Previously, in an engagement like this one, no Immortals would have been lost. The Warp Prism. This unit is getting some love with the ability to pick up other units from a distance. This change will also allow the Warp Prism to rescue critical units during engagements. We expect that with this change, we will see Drop Micro become a more core part of Protoss harassment. There are a few changes on the table for the Oracle. First, we are combining Revelation with Envision. Now, cloaked units hit by Revelation are also revealed. This change combines the two similar abilities while opening up a new method of detection in situations where observers aren't the best option. We have also added a new ability to the Oracle called Stasis Ward. This is a trap set by an Oracle that is triggered when enemy units walk nearby, causing them to enter a stasis state where they can no longer attack, move, use abilities, or take damage. Undetected stasis wards at key locations have the potential to keep an enemy army at bay for significant periods of time. The Tempest has now been redesigned to only attack ground units, while also getting a significant buff to its movement speed. Alongside this, we have added a new ability to the Tempest called Disintegration that allows it to deal high, single-target damage over a long period of time. As you can see in this example, units tagged with Disintegration can either sit passively and die, or move out to do whatever damage they can before expiring. Lastly, changes have arrived to the Carrier. Interceptors can now be deployed to fight at a specific target area, allowing the opportunity to deal damage with a unit in multiple locations. You can now strategize ways to get maximum damage out of the unit at any moment. That concludes all the changes on the table for the venerable Protoss race. Keep in mind that everything is subject to change as we move into public testing. That being said, we are pumped for the new options open to Protoss players in Legacy of the Void. And of course, look forward to hearing your thoughts and feedback as well. Hello and welcome to a multiplayer update for Legacy of the Void. In this video, we will be discussing both new additions and changes coming to the Terran race with the final installment of the Starcraft 2 trilogy. First up, let me introduce you to the Herc. This barracks unit is anxious for a head-on fight. The Herc comes equipped with the ability to grapple onto targets at range and get up close and personal. Able to one-shot banelings while dishing out small radius splash damage, the Herc is particularly adept against the Zergling baneling composition. Keep in mind, though, that the Herc is unable to attack air and will have difficulty against larger Zerg ground units. Against Protoss, Hercs are particularly strong due to their high health and light armor. Nothing makes them happier than to jump in and break up a Protoss army. But it only takes a few well-placed zealots to deal with the Herc squad, so prepare yourself to counter appropriately. Up next, meet the Cyclone. This gal has a one-track mind, able to focus down units at range by targeting opponents one at a time, locking onto them, and dealing damage on the move. The Cyclone moves at the same speed as Stalkers, making them a solid choice for establishing early map control while picking off priority targets in the process. If you intend to counter the Cyclone, initiating combat swiftly and in force will work to your advantage. Moral of the story, if you're slow and big, you're gonna lose against the Cyclone. However, there are always opportunities to counter the Cyclone's mobility. All right, let's talk about changes coming to current units in the Terran roster, starting with the Siege Tank. You can now pick up and drop tanks while they're in siege mode. We dig the idea of creating opportunities to harass with the Siege Tank that weren't previously possible. In general, we think providing more opportunities to control your army in masterful ways is an exciting way to push StarCraft 2. And now the big boy, the Thor. Thors will now be capable of self-repair. It's a pretty simple change. Use emergency repair to heal after combat, and you can bring the unit back up to full. The only drawback is that repairing a unit will prevent it from both attacking and moving. There is a whole world of creative combat options when Thors travel in groups and rotate opportunities to repair. Banshees are another unit getting some attention with Legacy. We're interested in providing more opportunities to micro Banshees against ground units. So, we're implementing a speed upgrade available once you've built a fusion core. After acquiring the speed upgrade, Banshees will be capable of outrunning mobile detection units, even an upgraded Overseer or Observer. This makes the Banshee much better at surviving counter pressure that can come against harassment attempts. All right, last but not least, let's talk battle cruisers. These iconic capital ships can now teleport anywhere on the map without vision. Keep in mind though, that using this ability will cost a lot of energy, so choosing when and where to move is incredibly important. Clearly, there are opportunities where this call makes great sense, and when help is needed, you can get there almost instantly. That wraps up our summary of design changes coming to the Terran race with Legacy of the Void. Keep in mind that everything is subject to change as we move into public testing. That being said, we hope you're as excited as we are to share in a new experience of StarCraft that will be more fast-paced than... Hello, and welcome to a multiplayer update for Legacy of the Void. In this video, we will be discussing additions and changes coming to the Zerg race in the exciting conclusion of the StarCraft 2 trilogy. First up, let me introduce you to the Ravager. This unit is a morph off of the Roach, a ranged unit that comes with a new ability, Corrosive Bile, that deals damage to a target area. Corrosive Bile marks a target location, and after a brief delay, units and structures in that area are hit with high damage. This ability also has a powerful perk against Protoss. It can destroy force fields. In a PvZ matchup that includes Sentry versus Ravager, we anticipate a new contest of micro that presents opportunities to both gain and lose advantage. When paired with fungal growth, Ravagers can reliably damage air units. As expected, Corrosive Bile is also particularly good against units with little to no mobility. If you want to avoid the damage from Corrosive Bile, simply make sure you dodge reactively whenever possible. For those of you that have been around StarCraft since Brood War, this unit hardly needs an introduction, the Lurker. As you'd expect, Lurkers in StarCraft 2 are capable of dealing massive splash damage. They also serve as a ranged siege option capable of outdistancing most units and all base defense structures. For Terran, countering the Lurker can be accomplished with the recently added Cyclone. To learn more about the Cyclone, be sure to check out our Terran update video. Of course, familiar micro moves from Brood War can also be used to take on the Lurker. Needless to say, we're looking forward to seeing these guys back in action. We're also making some changes to the current roster of Zerg units, starting with the Corruptor. We're adding a new ability to the Corruptor called Caustic Spray that deals damage to ground units and structures. This damage ramps up over time, making it a strong choice against buildings. Although not ideal against a mobile ground army, damage is damage, and in a tight matchup, every bit you can deal works to your favor. Next up, let's talk about the Infestor. We're giving the Infestor a new ability called Aggressive Mutation that grants a flat damage buff to friendly units. That means your basic Zergling Swarm is even more powerful against enemies that would have taken them out previously. In Legacy of the Void, the Swarm host is going to be taking a bit more of an aggressive role when it comes to harassment. we have made the swarm host's locusts stronger while lowering the frequency with which they can spawn. The swarm host will also be able to spawn locusts while on the move and upgrade them to fly in the late game. Keep in mind that massing swarm host will not be a viable strategy in Legacy, as the downtime between locust spawns has been increased to a point that your swarm host army will be easily overrun. Of course, you can harass enemy bases with this new change as well. And finally, I want to talk to you about the changes coming to the Nidus Worm. Nidus Worms can no longer be damaged while emerging. This makes the Nidus Worm a more reliable option for drop harassment. In late-game situations where both sides have a lot of resources, the Zerg player can now force engagements at strategic locations by employing an army of Nidus Worms. That concludes the updates currently on the table for Zerg in Legacy of the Void. Keep in mind that everything is subject to change as we move into public testing. That being said, we are excited for the new possibilities available to Zerg players in Legacy of the Void, and look forward to hearing your thoughts and feedback as well. Thanks again for watching, and be sure to check out the changes coming to both Terran and Protoss armies. I'm Cloakin with Blizzard Entertainment, and we'll talk to you soon.